and I shall send you live. You are going live.
Good evening, Eddie. Good evening, colleagues.
Now, oh, Councillor Zaffer said you're live now, Councillor Freeman, if you want to start the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome everybody to our first, I can say forum meeting. It is forum meeting, and I've got some nice guests today. So anybody who's listening, we are being screened, and you can watch it at a later date. And our first person on the agenda is Marion on the COVID-19. So if we go forward with that, Marion, please.
Certainly. So in terms of where we are with COVID at the moment, we're 44th in the country, with our rates being at 340 cases per 100,000. We saw a drop in the rate of testing, but that is now more positive and is beginning to increase. And our positivity rate of those people who are tested is 16%, which is very high. And so we do need to make sure that we continue with all the advice around face coverings, keeping distance, and washing hands and so forth. We're beginning to see problems in the hospitals with the number of beds available for people with COVID because of the increasing numbers. There is going to be some rapid testing made available for NHS staff, and then social care and frontline staff and the residents of care homes coming online shortly. We're also seeing an increase in the numbers of older age groups who are testing positive for COVID, and this is very concerning. And what's happening in care homes is that even though the numbers of actual outbreaks are going down, the complexity and the numbers within the care homes are increasing. So there's a lot of work being done by our health colleagues and our community trust to try and improve that situation. The numbers of cases within schools hasn't been too bad, and the universities is beginning to go down. What they're intending to do is ensure that students are able to go home to their families, and then the universities will be providing online classes in the new year, and there's probably going to be testing for all the students in order for them to be able to go home. We're seeing problems in some of our businesses actually not following guidance, and it would be very helpful if you can think of ways that we can make sure that everybody is following the guidance and making sure that they keep everyone safe. In terms of the groups that are having the most number of cases, it still continues to be amongst our Black, African, Asian communities and other minority groups, and with the amount around in the Asian community the highest. I expect you've all been hearing about the proposed vaccine that's coming online. This was due to be introduced in December, and we're hoping that it will still be this year. And the people that will be offered that first are those in the front line working. It's really important that vulnerable groups and anybody that needs to get their flu jab done quickly, because the flu jab is going to be required to be had 3 weeks prior to any vaccine. So get in with getting your flu vaccine early. In terms of the wards that have got the most number of cases at the moment, it's a lot of our wards have now got more than 10, and Aston has got 129 cases in the last week, Alum Rock 123, Glebe Farm and Tarcross 106, Sparkbrook 101, and Handsworth Wood 100. So those are the ones that are all over the 100 mark. And we hopefully, with the new restrictions in place, that those figures will gradually come down, and so that we'll all be able to celebrate our Christmases with our loved ones. That's what I've got for you this evening.
Thank you very much, Marion. Obviously, where's our local testing points in on the Northfields?
There are. I'll just tell you exactly. I've got some slides where all our testing sites are, and I can let you know on that. Oh, is that one? So in terms of where all our walkthrough facilities are, St Villa Street and Lascelles, Selly Oak, a gate car park, Summerfield Community Sports Centre, Woodgate Valley Country Park, Saltley Heath and Wellbeing Centre, Alfred Road car park in Sparkbrook, Aston University, Lifford House in Sturchley, and Orphanage Road in Erdington. There's also some drive-through facilities in the city centre, and they're looking into further deployment of local stations that will come online. But those are the ones that I know about at the moment.
I was wondering if they've got one at Longbridge on the old car park site. By the college.
I think that's one of the ones that's being proposed, but I don't. It's not actually been given the go-ahead as yet. So
I've seen cars and that there. I'm just wondering if it's had started.
It doesn't look like it from the latest information that I've had today, but things are changing very rapidly, and sometimes what I'm told in the morning has changed by the time it's evening time.
Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah. That's lovely. Anybody got any questions for Marion? No, it looks good. Okay, Marion.
We haven't had any questions, Councillor Freeman, so no.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right.
And well, if there's any questions that do come up, Councillor Freeman, do let me know, and we'll endeavour to get a response to you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much, Marion. Good night.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Right. Our next guest is Wazim Regime, our cabinet member for transport. I don't think there's many of them going to ask questions, apart from me, I suppose, and Stuart.
Good evening, Councillor Freeman.
All right.
Good,
and how
thanks.
are you? All right.
I'm good. Busy, but not complaining. Good, yourself, good. You well?
Yes, busy running the buses around the estate.
Good man.
We just like you to update us on what the plans are for the city, for Northfield and Longbridge, or this side of the city. Any bus lanes or anything. And also the most complaints I'm getting is speeding and what's the other one? I can't think of the other one. Yeah, mainly speeding around the estates. If there's any plans for slowing some of these rat runs, as we call it, down, and if there's any money in the pot.
Cool. I'll give you a bit of a strategic citywide sort of analysis, and then we'll get down into some of the local issues with you, in your neighbourhood. So at the start of this year, start of 2020, we launched the draft Birmingham Transport Plan for consultation, which looked at 4 big moves. Big move number 1, taking space away from single occupancy private car and giving it to buses, giving it to public transport, walking and cycling. Big move number 2 we consulted on was recreating the city centre, where we were giving sustainable modes of transport, particularly buses, priority over private car. Big move number 3 was recreating neighbourhoods where not cars, but people dominated, and we made it safer for people to walk particularly and also cycle in the neighborhoods. And big move number 4 was looking at using parking as a demand management tool. And there's, we looked at how easy it is to access parking in certain places and how that influenced people's decisions to drive rather than use sustainable modes of transport. We were coming towards the end of the consultation and the pandemic kicked in, and then during the summer, following the announcement from the Transport Secretary, where they really wanted authorities to look at where we can really fast track sustainable modes of transport, particularly walking and cycling, as a means of people getting out and about during this pandemic, when public transport became, where the Prime Minister discouraged people from using public transport unless it was absolutely necessary to do so. So we put together the emergency transport plan, and through that we've built some pop-up cycle lanes. We've built a pop-up bus and cycle lane in Northfield down the Bristol Road, which is caused a lot of comment, some positive, quite a bit of negative too, that we're currently reviewing the decision on that. We've also looking at low traffic neighbourhoods. There's one in Kings Heath. There's some low traffic neighbourhood measures here in Lascelles, and that's really looking at where we can reduce rat running and also push external traffic back onto the main roads. This so often, and I see it here in Lascelles all the time, people will rat run on the residential roads to get from one main road to another. And what we're trying to do is keep as much traffic that's not local on those main roads, on those A roads and those B roads that can handle those larger amounts of traffic, rather than on our residential roads, particularly in neighbourhoods which were not designed for roads either side, for cars either to be parked either side of the road, and two-way traffic. And we get into all sorts of issues when cars can't pass through. So those are the key measures that we're watching. We're obviously introducing the government mandated clean air zone next June in Birmingham, around the Middle Ring Road, within the Middle Ring Road area in the city centre predominantly, to get to legally compliant levels of air quality within the city. And we've also got the clean air strategy, which looks at ensuring that every neighbourhood in the city is a safe haven, and particularly looking at pushing more school streets, where we know there's no primary school in the city which doesn't have a problem in the morning and in the afternoons with cars, and how we can discourage parents and carers to drive to school and encourage them to use walking and cycling as a real alternative, and let young people grow up enjoying the environment outside the schools in a safe way, rather than for it becoming a place for cars, particularly speeding cars. The other thing I did during the pandemic is I wrote a letter to the Transport Secretary asking for Birmingham to become a default 20-mile-per-hour city. So in Birmingham, 90% of the roads are residential roads, and we're rolling out 20-mile-per-hour zones slowly, but it's quite expensive when you have to put repeater signs saying 20-mile-per-hour zones in those smaller areas. So I wrote to Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, and said, look, we want to become a default 20-mile-per-hour city. What that would mean is we would need repeater signs on 10% of the roads, the A roads and the B roads and the dual carriageways, where the speed limits would be either 30 or 40. And the residential roads would automatically become 20 mile per hour overnight if we were to become a 20 mile per hour city. So Wales are doing that. There's cities in Scotland doing that too. But in England, we can't do that without the Transport Secretary's change of legislation. So ultimately, the response I got back was, we really welcome the idea of 20 mile per hour cities, 20 mile per hour zones and 20 mile per hour roads, and continue rolling them out. But we don't want you to do it, become a default city. So we can become a 20 mile per hour city by putting repeater signs on 90% of the roads. But that is so expensive, and it will take a hell of a long time to do. We estimate it'll take millions and millions of pounds putting those repeater signs on there. Because every neighbourhood we have drivers speeding, families particularly with children not feeling safe to go out there, and we need to do more to ensure that our roads are as safe as possible. So I'm going to stop there because I'm sure there's questions that you and your constituents would like to ask me, and I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody got any questions? I've got none on my showing on my chat sheet.
No, Councillor Freeman, we haven't got any questions in the chat box just yet.
So one of the things I work very closely with National Express and Diamond and other bus operators in the city, and this morning I'm a member of the West Midlands Bus Alliance. So the one thing we absolutely are conscious about is Birmingham's bus service is not fit for purpose, and we have very limited powers, unlike London. But by working very closely with the partners, we can bring about improvements. And where I published the Birmingham bus statement in September, and that was really as a reassurance statement to the bus industry. And Eddie, the bus industry better than most. I'm working in it. And the key thing was to reassure the bus industry that buses in the short term, obviously with the pandemic, there's some challenges, but in the medium to long term, they're really, really important to ensuring that our city continues to move and our city remains productive, because for many in our city, there is no alternative other than the bus service. When we published that statement, it came as a pleasant surprise that there's over £130 million worth of projects, and some of them are around bus lanes, bus gates, cross-city bus services, hydrogen buses, full electric buses that are, we're working together with in Birmingham. So I think the bus service over time will improve substantially. The city will become more productive because we will get more reliable bus services. And I know in your neck of the woods, Eddie, in the south of the city, there's real challenges around the lack of bus coverage. And I think it's really important when we make the bus service more reliable and more people go onto buses, that will hopefully encourage the operators to put more services, bus services on in every neighbourhood in our city.
Yeah, because I know the other problems is parking, the vehicles parking. As running around some of these little estates, I often come certain roads where you can't pass because of you've got to knock the doors, physically get out your bus and knock the doors because they're parked up overnight and forgot about a bus coming down the road. And I mean, and people are now moaning about they got to walk into the road as well with the buggies or the mobility scooters because the uncareness of the people parking.
Yeah, absolutely. The government's currently consulting on a number of matters. One of them is parking on footways too. And I've sent an email out to all the councils saying, do we go down the route of where London are, where they've got very, very strong powers on people who park illegally and particularly who park on pavement. So I think people need to park with responsibility and ensure that our very valuable and important buses can get through. And in terms of our environmental challenges, whether it's clean air or climate change, you get a zero emission public transport system which is effective, which is reliable, which is accessible to most of the citizens, and you're a long way into tackling those environmental challenges. But I think people need to ensure that cars are less dominant on our streets, and more sustainable modes of transport start to help our communities. And we create clean air. For me is so vital. And during this pandemic, I was getting people telling me they could taste clean air. I don't know what that tastes like, but because there was a drop in traffic and an improvement in clean air, the weather was good, and you could see clean clouds and clean skies. People enjoyed walking the canals, walking in our green spaces, walking around our blue space in the city. People enjoyed cycling. Cycling levels went through the roof, and that is the sort of environment we want our city to become. And our car will always have a role within our city, and there are people who have no alternative because of accessibility issues, because of disability. They absolutely rely on car. But if we could reduce the reliance of car, because at the moment we are over reliant on private car. And shift some of those journeys, particularly those shorter journeys, into walking and cycling, and those slightly longer journeys onto public transport, I think we'll be on a winner. Yeah.
It's just we've got to go backwards before we go forwards, then we?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a great believer where I have to renew my license every so often, and I have to go one day every year for 5 years to get me my driver awareness. This European thing, and I think it should be a thing where motorists, I know you can't do anything, where motorists have to do the same, because as you know, cars change very rapidly. There's the technology in cars now are totally different, and people forget how they pass the test. they think everything's the norm. It's like the van drivers now. We're getting more delivery drivers just coming along with the parcels, bumping up a curb, just banging the vans wherever on zigzags just to drop a parcel 2 feet away from them. You know, it's one of those. It's going to be a big battle, but uphill to convert people. But as you say, at this time and moment, people have got to have cars because we can't get them onto the public transport due to the virus. And this is where, you know, hopefully when we sort of get rid of this virus, we can track them back onto the buses. That's going to be a big promotion, because that gets, as we know, people get set in the ways and they think, well, I've done it in my car for this long, I'll stop it and use my car now instead of jumping on the bus. And as you say, if they ain't got a responsible and reliable bus service, they ain't going to catch him, are they?
Yeah, totally agree with you. I'm really looking forward, once we're through this pandemic, you know, we can get people back onto public transport in a safe way, and get people back to work and back to some form of normality.
I want to thank you, Wazir. I don't think anybody else has got any questions. You can have your tea now if you want to.
Thank you.
Any other meetings?
Thank you all. Take care. Thank you for
very much for your time. All right, thank you. Okay, Stuart, I think you're next. Yep, young Stuart. This is Stuart Cross, our local transportation man who checks your footpaths and trees and everything else.
Good evening, Councillor. Thanks for the invite, and yeah, good evening, everyone. Yes, so as Councillor Freeman mentioned, my name's Stuart Cross. I'm the highway steward, work for Kier, and I work in the south of the city. So I have regular meetings with Councillor Freeman, maybe once a month, where we drive around the estate, check on the condition of the roads, obviously raise work on the back of that. But we also obviously have a bigger inspection programme as well. So and obviously repair work that's going on throughout the city at the moment. So anyone local, you'll have seen this week on Shenley Lane, they're doing the footways down there, we're probably on there for the rest of the month now. So that's a considerably decent sized programme. And there's also the smaller jobs we're doing as well. So as Councillor Freeman mentioned, the pothole repairs, we do that as well. The street lights, Kier maintain that as well. And also the tree planting, which you'll see throughout the wards from now to April. So that's that side of it. We're also doing some work, some bidder schemes next year. We're resurfacing on Tedbury Grove, Steam Grove, and that's up until next March. So, and then beyond then, hopefully there'll be some more programmes to be announced. So yeah, so in general, Kier been on a contract since April now, and it's going pretty well. So as I say, a good relationship with the councillor. He always works me very hard every time we have a meeting, so it's yeah, I always come away with a big pad full of notes. But yeah, no, so it's going well. But yeah, obviously any questions to myself, Councillor, or anybody else, please shout them out.
Thank you. You forgot to tell him we always get out the emergency service, our emergency services for potholes and that columns. Right.
Yes.
The one, is there any programmes updating some of the lighting? Because we've still got some of the cast iron, like in my road, and that's some of the old cast iron lamps. Is there any?
Yeah, I think we said before what road has been done at the moment, which you asked me about. Was it Ted? What was the one we spoke about before?
Dale Allen's farm. Them with a couple of roads. They've still got the old.
So yeah, I haven't been informed of any this side of Christmas, but normally when you will receive some decent programmes like that, you'll be obviously made aware, and also you'll also see, for the residents out there, you'll see the A-frame boards going up advertising, you know, for the next 3 or 4 weeks. You'll see the upgrades on the road, but none's been to mind, but as soon as I'm aware, I'll certainly let you know.
And the other question was, you know, the bottom of Hilltop where we've on the corner of Bristol Road, have you heard anything about them digging it up to put the drain away to stop the water coming out of the pipe?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've kept an eye on it. I haven't, unfortunately, got no dates when that work's going to be happening. However, it's one of those ones where I've got maybe half a dozen locations, but when I drive around, I always have a little nose to see how it's getting on. So there's no concerns at the moment. However, there is still plans to change the drainage to have a soakaway to take over the issue. But yeah, unfortunately, no dates at the moment. But yeah, again, as soon as we have some, I'll certainly let you know for sure.
Thank you very much, Julie. Has anybody got any questions? I've got none on my chat line at the moment. No, I think that's it.
No, Councillor.
Well, what I'll do, I'll just put up the address in the chat bar now. So if anybody does have any issues now in the future, you can always go online. You just put that on there now, so you can always log any inquiries there, and you'll get an inspector on site within a matter of 2-3 days to follow up your questions anyway.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and have a good night. And you can have your tea now.
Thank you.
All outside.
Cheers. Bye all. See
Okay,
ya.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.
Right, that nearly brings us to the end. The only other things I've got to bring up is our walkabouts concerns. He's been fly tipping, work around the Belfield School, obviously with the payments you've heard. The yellow lines we've done in Hilltop roads to stop some of the school parking and causing problems with people getting out of the drives. And just general some work, community work at the Victoria School I've been involved with. And I want to say to everybody, thank you very much. And if you want to watch this further, we have it on line later on. So if you want to update the link and have a look, I'll be glad to do so. And I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. There we go, Mother. Anything you've got to say?
No, I think we haven't got any questions or anything, Councillor Freeman. So if you've finished your update, I'll close the meeting now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night. You can have an early one tonight.
I can.
All right then, Bob. Thank you very much. Good night and be safe, everybody.